What does it feel like to hold a $304 million ticket while the world treats you like a punchline because of a weak left hand? Amidst a hurricane of memes and the hollow judgments of a worthless contract, Jaylen Brown chose a silence that was nothing short of defiant. But when the final buzzer echoed through June, the finals MVP trophy transformed that global ridicule into a lingering, shameful oversight for the rest of the NBA. What exactly did we miss about a man who operates his life like a true Renaissance man? Why did his response make the world's collective skepticism look so staggeringly shallow? $304 million, a left hand, and the ring bearer's retort.
Find Brown, he's smoking! Oh,
you don't put pen to paper on a supermax extension to be loved. You sign it to become a lightning rod for impossible expectations and a target for the cruelest vitriol when the ship falters. Jaylen Brown understood this grim reality the moment he finalized his 5-year, approximately $304 million deal in the summer of 2023, a record-shattering figure that instantly invited a landslide of prejudice. The narrative was written for him. The Celtics overpaid. Brown isn't a closer. He'll vanish when the bright lights of the playoffs hit. The masses crave a tidy story, and Brown's nightmare in Game 7 against Miami in 2023, riddled with haunting turnovers, provided the perfect missing piece for his detractors. The no left hand brand went viral because it was easy to digest, easy to mock, and easy to use as a definitive stamp on his ceiling. Yet elite basketball, especially the suffocating air of the postseason, rarely collapses because of a single mechanical flaw. It collapses under the weight of distorted decision-making and a system broken by predictable habits. This is where Brown launched his most ruthless counterattack. He didn't respond with words, he responded with the evolution of detail.
To Brown. Jaylen Brown goes right past Doncic and the slam.
Throughout the 2024 championship run, Brown didn't waste time trying to become a handle wizard to appease the internet. Instead, he embraced a terrifying pragmatism, stripping away redundant dribbles, accelerating his decision-making, and treating his left hand as a tactical tool rather than a performative showcase. He invited defenders to force him left, only to unleash a lethal secondary option, a sudden change of pace, a punishing physical bump to create space, or a calculated kick-out before the help defense could even recover. Brown's maturity manifested in his refusal to try and win over the internet. He was too busy dismantling defensive systems. When the dust settled on the 2024 finals, the rumors were forced to bow to the cold reality of a title. The Boston Celtics secured their record-breaking 18th championship, and Jaylen Brown hoisted the Bill Russell NBA Finals MVP trophy, a definitive acknowledgement from the game's insiders of the man who truly dictated the tempo when the pressure reached its boiling point. Averaging 20.8 points, 5.4 rebounds, and 5.0 assists per game, Brown proved to be much more than a consistent scoring threat. He was a defensive juggernaut. Time magazine rightfully highlighted his exceptional defense against Luka Doncic, proving that when you are both a primary offensive engine and the defensive lock on the opponent's best player, you are no longer a meme. You are an unsolvable problem. So, what exactly does $304 million buy? It doesn't buy viral highlights or social media adoration. The Celtics paid for a rare commodity in the modern NBA, a star capable of integrating into a winning infrastructure without demanding a solo stage. Brown showed he could drop 30 when the moment called for it, but he was equally willing to be the silent assassin, gutting defenses with perfectly timed cuts, decisive drives, and back-breaking chase-down blocks. In Boston, where the championship banners hanging in the TD Garden rafters weigh heavy with history, the only currency that matters isn't style, it's the ring.
Jumps the passing lane, one-on-one, stuffs it!
The sheer intensity of the scrutiny Brown faced, often from a subset of the Celtics' own fan base, is in fact the ultimate proof of his indispensability. In a market as unforgiving as Boston, where impatience is a storied tradition, Brown accomplished the hardest feat in sports. He turned doubt into fuel, noise into silence, and that silence into the thunderous roar of a championship. The Celtics didn't pay him to satisfy the digital mob. They paid him to deliver glory, and he fulfilled that mission as a true Renaissance man, an academic mind, an entrepreneur, and a champion who refuses to live within the confines of public expectation. Ultimately, that $304 million contract is no longer a joke. It is the price of admission to witness one of the greatest acts of professional vindication in the modern era. 48 minutes of chess, intelligence as a competitive operating system.
Brown, three-pointer, puts it in!
If the NBA regular season is a grueling marathon of raw athleticism and technical skill, the playoffs are a merciless trial of the mind. I have long maintained that Jaylen Brown is dangerous in a way that defies conventional scouting reports. He does not simply play on instinct. He functions through a sophisticated operating system, one where data, opponent tendencies, and psychological pressure are processed as variables in a complex algorithm. While skeptics often dismiss Brown's intellect as a mere PR strategy, the reality is that his intellectualism carries genuine academic weight. His appointment as a director's fellow at the MIT Media Lab, a prestigious program bridging elite individuals with a global community of innovators, is an indisputable fact confirmed by both the institution and reputable outlets like Boston.com. When Time magazine emphasizes his academic leanings, his study of philosophy, or his time lecturing at Harvard, they aren't just padding a resume. They are describing a brain meticulously trained to deconstruct the world. The essential task for any serious sports journalist is to decipher how that intellectual lethality permeates every square inch of the hardwood. In the hyper-accelerated environment of the NBA, where there is no luxury of slowing down to think, Brown's intelligence translates into high-speed pattern recognition. Much like a chess grandmaster who identifies the underlying structure of the board rather than calculating every possible move, Brown views a defensive scheme as a shifting landscape of geometry. He sees a help defender not just as a body, but as a knight lurking for a fork. He views the baseline as a locked square on the board, and he is increasingly willing to sacrifice the flashy play in favor of the right play.
Celtics can afford to take time off the clock. Brown drives, finds Porzingis.
During the 2024 championship run, the Celtics didn't win through sheer individual pyrotechnics. They won through a suffocating brand of iron discipline, and Brown was the embodiment of that ethos. He chose the drive when the lane breathed open, the pull-up when the big man dropped, and the kick-out when the corner was compromised, decisions that might vanish in a 7-second highlight reel, but serve as the very backbone of the Celtics' total control of the game. The depth of Brown's character is further revealed by his uncanny composure within the league's relentless pressure cooker, where every mistake is magnified under a microscope. He possesses the rare ability to step off a court defined by suffocating stakes and appear at NASA Goddard to discuss the Hubble Space Telescope and STEM engagement, a detail documented by NASA itself to shatter the myth of the just an athlete. American sporting culture often harbors a subtle prejudice that an athlete focused on philosophy or science must be distracted. Yet Brown has utilized his career to dismantle that trope. He does not allow his intellect to dilute his edge. He uses it as a precision-honed blade. In the heat of a clutch moment, what dictates the outcome isn't just fast-twitch muscle fiber, but the ability to read the floor in 1.5 seconds, identifying the rhythm to escape a trap, and determining exactly where the ball must go to create maximum leverage. At this level, wisdom is not a burden. It is background software that prevents panic when the game dissolves into chaos. Jaylen Brown will likely always be a dissonant figure in the public eye because he refuses to fit into the traditional superstar mold. He speaks little of himself and refuses to perform for affection, yet he constantly forces the world to think. When the crowd cannot categorize a man, they often resort to mockery, and once again, Brown has responded in the only language that is truly indisputable: efficiency, hardware, and a brand of prestige that cannot be bought. Freedom as a legacy, when basketball is only part of a larger game.
You gotta go. Puts Gobert in the mix. Steps back.
If you are still framing Jaylen Brown solely through the lens of a star who overcame skepticism to hoist the Finals MVP trophy, then truthfully, you are only seeing half the canvas. The other half, the part that defines him as a true Renaissance man, lies in the way he has engineered a life where basketball is a launch pad, not a cage for his identity. Look no further than the birth of his independent brand, 741 Performance, and the debut of the Rover sneaker. According to Anscape and Forbes, Brown walked away from an estimated $50 million in potential endorsements from major corporate giants to secure absolute ownership and creative control. In an era where a superstar's value is often dictated by the terms of a predatory endorsement deal, Brown's choice is a thunderous manifesto on equity. He refused to be a hired face for a logo he didn't own. He chose to be the architect of his own ecosystem, a move that serves as a living testament to the economic self-determination he has championed throughout his career. That vision extends far beyond the hardwood through the Boston Exchange. As Time magazine observed, this isn't a glossy, performative branding exercise. It is a substantive effort to foster generational wealth and close the racial wealth gap in underserved communities. Brown is investing in long-term structures where value is measured by cultural innovation and the creation of opportunity rather than short-term social media trends. Even among his peers, his influence is undeniable in his role as vice president of the National Basketball Players Association, the NBPA, a position that requires the grit to represent the interests of his colleagues amidst the suffocating pressures of his primary job. He does not choose silence for the sake of safety. He chooses to be a vocal advocate for systemic social change with a long-term commitment that Time characterizes as the steadfastness of a leader, fundamentally distinct from the performative activism so common in the modern landscape. So why did the world get it so wrong? Perhaps because we have grown far too comfortable using a poverty of metrics, viral highlights, a handful of turnovers, or mocking memes to define the depth of a human being. Jaylen Brown is a high-stakes reminder that an athlete can discuss quantum physics, education, and equity while simultaneously destroying the best players on the planet in a championship series. He is playing a much larger game than simply putting a ball through a hoop. Basketball provided him the leverage, but the legacy he is chasing is absolute freedom. Freedom of thought, freedom of capital, and the freedom to never be defined by anyone but himself. If you still view those off-court pursuits as a distraction, you are repeating the exact same error the NBA establishment made before they watched him raise that trophy and prove that a free mind is the most dangerous weapon on any battlefield. Jaylen Brown and the victory in the war to be understood.
Turnover. Here's Jaylen Brown.
Ultimately, I want to make one thing clear. Jaylen Brown didn't just prove people wrong by winning the Finals MVP, he did something far more profound. He fundamentally shifted the nature of the conversation surrounding his name. He dissolved the archetype of the most doubted superstar and replaced it with the image of a quintessential winner. He took the left-hand meme and buried it under a masterful finals performance where he dictated the rhythm and anchored the league's most terrifying defense. Most importantly, he rewrote the narrative of that worthless $304 million contract with the undeniable ink of a championship ring. But the reason I believe Brown is a true Renaissance man is that he never allowed the victory to end at the baseline. He won the game of ownership with 741. He won the game of intellect through his academic and STEM connections, and he won the game of legacy by placing his community at the heart of his long-term vision. I'll leave you with a question to debate. In the modern NBA landscape, how should we define a superstar? By the box scores and the highlights alone, or by the ability to engineer winning and create value that outlasts a career? If you find yourself leaning toward the latter, you'll understand why Jaylen Brown is more than just an elite basketball player. He is a manifesto on conviction and autonomy. If you appreciate this kind of deep dive analysis that cuts straight to the core and isn't afraid to challenge the status quo, subscribe to the Hoops Ledger. Because in the world of the NBA, the best stories aren't found in the noise. They are found in the truths that eventually force the rest of the world to fall silent and listen.